If you've been watching the channel, you'll know that we've got an Octavia 1.8 TRS as a project car. In this video, I want to answer the question, is the Octavia RS the best hot hatch available for under 5k? First off, what's a hot hatch? For the purpose of this video, hot hatch is going to be the second car or a second car. Something that's used for fun and doesn't get used every day. It's got to be exciting, reliable, not cost a bomb to fix if something catastrophic breaks like an engine. It's got to be tunable and fairly practical, so that rules out any two-seater cars. What is the Octavia RS up against? It's up against its older brother, if you like, the MK5 Golf GTI chassis, which also includes the Octavia RS Mark II. For sure, the MK5 GTI platform has the MK1 Octavia beat in two main areas. Interior is a different level on the MK5 Golf platform, much nicer, more spacious, and the chassis is also much better. On the flip side, the TFSI engine is arguably less reliable, more to go wrong with it, and when it does go wrong, it can be a pricey engine to fix, i.e. used engines are quite expensive. Purchase price is more for the MK5 platform, and do we really care about the interior on a second fun car? If you're looking for a day-to-day hot hatch, for sure the MK5 Golf is the way to go. It's a comfortable place to be, it's relatively reliable, there's tons about, but for a cheap, exciting second car that's going to be tuned, I don't think it's going to be the best thing that's out there. Next car on the list is the Civic EP3 Type-R. Engines are great on these, typical Honda, if they've been looked after, that is, because it's essential, because these engines need to be revved to get the power. If you do end up needing a new engine for these, they can be big money also, because the K20 is a very popular swap in all sorts of cars. Gearbox, nothing to see here. It's a strong and reliable box, can take plenty of power. Chassis is supposed to be decent, but the steering is supposed to be very numb. It's a 3-door chassis, it's only available in 3 doors, so it's not the most practical car. There is huge aftermarket support for it, but it's always going to be more expensive tuning a normally aspirated engine versus an engine that was boosted from the factory. And prices are also on the up, but sometimes cars come up for 2.5k, but usually they're going to be around 6. Is the EP3 Type-R a fun second car? Yeah, it fits the bill. Is it going to be as exciting as something like a 1.8 TRS that's been tuned? I think probably not. The next car on the list is the Clio 182 and even the Clio 197. There's absolutely loads of these ones around, and they're supposed to be the best hot hatches ever made. Practicality, again, it's a 3-door shell, not a ton of space on it, and obviously the space on the back seats is hard to access. On the reliability front, the engine is supposed to be strong, but again, the motor will have seen the red line a lot in its life. It needs to be revved, so it's going to need to have been looked after. The engines are probably slightly cheaper than the TFSI and the K20, but not as cheap as the 1.8 turbo. And for sure, getting more power out of the F4, which is the engine that's in the Clio 182 and 197, it's going to cost a ton of money if you want to get more power out of it, and you're not going to be able to get that much, and certainly not for less than £5,000 all in. Also, gearboxes can be fragile with a stock power, so putting even more power through the box is probably asking for trouble. If we look at the chassis only, for sure, it's a great car, it's the best here. But if you want any other things like tunability, reliability, practicality, all of the other cars have the Clio beat. So that brings us back to the MK1 Octavia RS, the 1.8 turbo motor. Tunability, I think the 1.8 turbo motor has got to be as tunable as the TFSI. The K20 is an awesome engine also to tune, but you could need a bigger budget to get the same horsepower than the 1.8 turbo. For me, the 1.8 turbo wins with regards to tunability. Reliability, the K20 is probably the winner. Running cost, assuming nothing goes wrong catastrophically, the K20 is probably going to be the cheapest car to run. But if something catastrophic does happen, which given the type of cars that we're looking at the prices that we're looking at, it's a real possibility. So the 1.8 turbo, in my opinion, has got to be the safe choice. I.e., if something catastrophic does break, it's probably going to be the cheapest to fix. On the practicality scale, you know, the MK5, MK6 GTI, Octavia RS Mark II, they win. Feel bigger inside, and they are a bigger car. But the MK1 Octavia has got to be a close second. Civic and Clio, as I've said, 3-door shells, smaller car. With regards to fun and excitement, Octavia 1.8 TRSs can crop up for about £2,500, which leaves £2,500 for mods. If you can do the work yourself, you can probably get it close to 300 brake. And I don't think there's any way we're going to get up to 300 brake from the other cars, at least not for 5k all in. And I think a 300 brake Octavia RS is going to be a super fun and exciting car. Yes, the handling of the MK1 Octavia is not as good as the other cars on the list, but I think 300 brake probably more than makes up for any failings in the cornering department. If we score up all these categories for each car, this is what we get. The EP3 Type-R comes in last place. I think the biggest things with this is the cost to modify and the purchase price. If you had a bigger budget, maybe it would be closer to the top, but for $5,000 can be an expensive car. In third place, which is a bit of a surprise, is the GTI MK5 Octavia VRS Mark II. So what counts against it here is also a slightly bigger purchase price, which leaves us less for mods, which leaves us with a less powerful car. Plus, if something does catastrophically go wrong with it, we could be looking at a huge bill. Plus, it's probably not as reliable as the EP3 or the 1.8 turbo, so it loses out there, so it comes in third place. Second place is the Clio 182 197. I wasn't expecting this to come up so far, but I think what counts for it is the purchase price, because there's so many about. They're pretty cheap. They're a fun car as standard. Evo are always banging on about how great they are, if not the greatest hot hatch ever. And the running costs are probably not as bad as the K20 or the TFSI motors, so that is how it scores so highly. But in first place we have the Octavia 1.8 TRS, the MK1 Octavia, and what really counts for that is the 1.8 turbo motor is what saves it. Generally a reliable motor, tough motor, cheap to tune, it's been done a million times, there's tons of parts out there. If something does go wrong with that motor, it's not the end of the world to fix. I mean, there's millions of those engines out there. There's millions of those gearboxes out there, and if you can get it up to 300 brake or 280 brake with the parts that are out there, you've got a really exciting car and you've got a really fun car. Plus it's also practical, and for all those reasons the Octavia RS wins. So that's the video, guys. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, please vote, please subscribe, look after yourselves, and I'll see you again next time.